Welcome to this edition of the 3 and 2 What's He Gonna Do podcast. I'm Dan Zielinski, the third man in Baseball Prospect Journal, joined as always with Colin Cannonberg of StatSwipe, and we got Hayden, a special guest here today, joining us to discuss baseball and some other topics.
Thanks for having me
as well.
Yeah, glad you could come on.
And of course, even with your Michigan sweatshirt on.
We'll take it.
Well, I think we want to talk baseball first. The World Series ended last night.
Mm-hmm.
Weird situation with Turner and his COVID case. We won't get into that much because who cares? And most importantly, the Dodgers won in 6 games. I think we both maybe predicted that, or
we
were around there.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we thought it would go. Anyway, that it would go 7 games, but. And it looked like it should have. After the first, so, we'll discuss more. After the first 5 innings, it was all Rays. I thought the Rays had it, but.
Hayden, what did you think of the World Series? Were the Dodgers the favorites going in? Did you like their chances?
I thought the Dodgers were the favorites from day one. I mean, since they came back.
I thought the Yankees were.
Yeah, I don't know. They were just the strongest, best record.
Yeah.
They just looked the best going in overall.
Mm-hmm.
Best team.
The Rays had that game, though. Oh, at least they should have.
That's kind of the nice thing about baseball playoffs, though, is you do get the best team for the majority of the time that wins it.
It was cool. Year. I did not expect it to be 2 number 1 seeds.
We'll get into talking about if this is a valid World Series or not, because I think there's some mixed opinions about that. But let's first talk about Kevin Cash.
Let's just jump right in it.
Managerial decision here. I'm pulling up the box score, but it's very simple. With Blake Snell dealing on the mound, allowed his second hit. Mookie Betts, the top of the order, coming back up for the Dodgers. Top of the order had struggled all game against Blake Snell, like everyone else. Mookie Betts has struggled all year against left-handed pitching. They decided to pull him. I mean, Kevin Cash was already halfway to the mound before the runner got to first base, it seemed like. It was a ridiculous decision, and you're the analytics guy. What do you say about this analytics?
I guess let me pose a question first. Do you think, for you being the analytic guy, do you think that was a planned thing from the beginning of the game? Or you give up your second hit, or you're going in, maybe you get the third, through 3 innings, like, hey, you give up another hit, that's going to be it, or is that?
No, their plan going in is, okay, we will not let our starter go a third time through the order. So he made it through the order twice, and that was it. And, it's worked. I mean, there's evidence that shows over the course of a long run. It's very sample size dependent, and over the course of the season, it's worked for them. That's been their formula from the start, and it's worked. But when you get into a do or die situation, and I think this is why Oakland hasn't ever gotten over the hump either, is because when it comes down to 1 game, 2 games, you're set with, well, do we trust the system that has worked for a long course of time, or do you trust your ace, who clearly has had his stuff? He had his stuff. It's not like his pitches were bad. No, he had his stuff all the way to the last pitch that he threw. And I'd be mad too if I were Snell. I mean, if you're feeling it that good, that's like a hitter being in the groove and not getting a chance to go get an at-bat.
So similar to what the Giants would do with Baum, to win World Series. They'd play him like a ludicrous amount because they knew he was hot.
See, but that was a difference. They put in their best pitcher for the long haul. The Rays had their best pitcher on the mound and took him out. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's the same principle. I mean, you got the hot guy and you take him out. Like, it's the exact opposite approach, though. Just trust the system, or do I deviate to try and, go for the win, which is what the Giants do.
Well, and they pulled Snell for Anderson, who struggled all postseason. After Game 6, he had allowed at least 1 run in 8 of his 10 postseason appearances. So if you're going to bring a guy in with a runner on, I'd rather see like Diego Castillo or someone like that, someone who's had a lot of success in the postseason. But when they bring in Anderson, who struggled against the meat, really, of the Dodgers lineup, it just didn't make sense to me.
And it was weird because I didn't watch any of the game. I had checked the scores. I checked the first few innings, and I came in on the 6th inning, and suddenly it was 2-1. I'm like, okay, well, it was only a matter of time. It was 1-0. The Dodgers will probably score. Like, only afterwards did I find out, they just took out their starting pitcher, and now it's like, why you go 5 full innings, don't give up a single run, and now you're going to just pull them out?
So if you look at it from Cash's perspective, I think there's 2 ways. As a manager in that position, it's a lose-lose. Say if you keep Snell in, he gives up a run.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be saying, well, why didn't they trust, the 2 times through the order system they've been using? So I think either way he is going to get blamed. I think more people are more in our boat where we believe that he should have trusted Snell, and
Well, I mean, he gives up 1 run and say, okay, now it's tied, and now maybe, okay, now you pull him out. And go for a fresh arm, but he hasn't given up anything. Like 1 hit, okay, there's 0 still on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem with analytics too. It doesn't take into the emotions and just like the actual facts.
Yeah, you're streaking.
No feel for the game, because once the starter comes out, he's just mowing his opposing hitters down. That gives some life to the opposing team, and that's what it did for the Dodgers. And it just wasn't a smart baseball in terms of feel aspect. Snell was on dealing, and that's something numbers really don't quantify.
As we were saying, the system, when it comes into the postseason, that system should move out of the way. It should be, how are your aces doing? How are your star players doing, and capitalize on that. And that's the Rays were in the position this year to kind of buck that trend.
Yeah.
And kind of finish the job. That's the same with Oakland, and that system works to get you in the playoffs. And we've seen that it does now to be a competitive team with a low payroll and below average players. But once you're in, man, you got to go for it.
Isn't that what makes any playoffs exciting?
Yeah,
chance to throw analytics for a loop, doesn't matter what sport. So
I want to get back to the Rays' chances moving forward in terms of future seasons, but the Dodgers, they've the last 4 years before this year had lost to the World Series winner. 5th year, they finally get the job done, win it. First time in over 30 years, 32 years. Is this the start of a dynasty, or where do we see the Dodgers going from here?
It's definitely a dynasty. It already is. I mean, they're just so competitive every year. I don't know if you can consider this a dynasty. Yeah, I mean, it's not like the Yankees where they won 3 straight.
No, it's been. I don't think anyone's going to.
I don't know the numbers like you guys do, but it kind of depends on how long they have their current players, signed for. I mean, is there a year in 1 season, 2 seasons at the end of this season where there's a dump of 3, 4, really good players they just can't afford to pay, all those high max contracts? Is there that coming up for them?
The thing
is, suggest they can't.
The thing is, they can afford to let players go because they have such a deep farm system and great player development, where it's just the next prospect on.
They can buy if they want to buy a free agent.
They can buy a free agent.
Their biggest question moving forward is going to be their pitching staff, because Kershaw isn't getting any younger, and does Dustin May kind of turn into that guy? Does Goslin, who Baseball America named NL Rookie of the Year today, which that's a whole nother debate, which I don't agree with. But he's another guy. Will he take the next step and develop into that starter? Urias as well. So they've got options. It's just going to come down to pitching for them, because their lineup is stacked for the next decade.
Right. I think they will be. I think they could win 3 more World Series in the next 5 years.
What about the Rays? Do you think they get back? I mean, they're in a loaded – I don't want to say loaded division, but I think big players like the Red Sox, Yankees are going to be good.
I think in a full season, it's hard to pick the Rays going. I think they are a legit team. They're good. I think the Yankees are a better team overall.
That's farm system in baseball.
Yeah.
Rays. So it's not like they don't have talent coming in, but if you look at their major league roster, they got a lot of guys who, I don't want to say overperformed, but aren't proven commodities that you can rely on from year to year.
Yeah.
So.
And let's talk about Baltimore too.
They're coming up.
No, I was just kidding.
Well, I think they're 3-4 years away.
I don't know.
That's a ways off to think, though. I don't know if you can even think that.
But
a lot can change.
Legitimately,
I think they're in a better situation than the Red Sox. The only reason
I think so too.
The Red Sox can buy guys, but their payroll is so high that I don't think they want to spend much money in free agency unless they get desperate and their fans start to get upset.
I just don't think you can look forward 3 maybe, but 4 years for sure. No, like that's just too far. There's so much that happens, injuries, everything. Yeah. Everything changes from year to year.
And if Adley is a bust, which I don't think he will be, but if he is, that derails the whole organization. But I think Toronto's closer than the Red Sox and Baltimore. Toronto's good. They have good
Their
players.
infield is
Yeah.
actually one of the best infields.
They're kind of an underrated team this year, and I'm glad they made it in the playoffs to kind of show a little bit.
I think we can agree though that the Brewers are far off from the Dodgers and Rays, and
Oh boy.
we can, if we want, we can get into that.
Well, they're not the worst in their division though. So
the NL Central is pretty weak.
Yeah, they're getting there.
I did want to ask you guys too, Kershaw.
Mm-hmm.
Career-wise, the guy's been in the major leagues for 13 years. Is he the greatest pitcher of our generation? Let me first read off his stats, and then we can discuss. 175 wins, 76 losses, 243 ERA. He's innings pitched over 2,000, complete games 25, strikeouts over 2,500, walks only 585. So definitely not a guy who's got a high strikeout rate, and 3 Cy Youngs, an MVP. Now a World Series. Really, the World Series was the only thing he was missing out on.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you need that to be the best player of your generation. Because
I agree.
No, especially when you're talking about a specific position in baseball, like just being the best pitcher, that has nothing to do with the team around you. I mean, you can have terrible batting or terrible fielding.
Pitching of the generation, I think Kershaw is the headliner, but I think Verlander and Scherzer are not far off. I think those two are right there with him. All of them, for the most part, have been durable. Kershaw's been very durable. So I think, between those, if you have to draft those 3 or rank those 3, boy, I'd be hard.
You can't go wrong.
I'd almost.
The thing is Kershaw he did need the World Series ring to kind of just complete the entire saga, right? And he needed to perform well in the season in which he won the World Series, because the playoffs have been kind of a question mark for him throughout his career. Well, to perform well and win the World Series, I think is definitely kind of the last check of the box.
Yeah, that's a great point. And in terms of just WAR, Clayton Kershaw in 13 years, 69.6. Justin Verlander, who I kind of sometimes forget about because he's been on some really good teams and on some really bad teams. And obviously now he's hurt and he's going to probably miss all next year. He's pitched those 16 years, has a 71.8 WAR. And then Max Scherzer, 13 years, 62.3 WAR.
So they're all pretty even.
Close. They're all dominant. It really just comes down to the nitty-gritty.
If you looked at the stats and there was one guy that was literally better than that had the best stats of all the 3, maybe you can make the case the stats wise, but just for the eye test, you do. I mean, I don't know. It's very challenging for the eye test. That's kind of what you want to judge on first.
I think Scherzer. The eye test. That guy just, when you see him when he's on, I think there's.
But that's the thing, is you got to judge the 3 when they're on, because there's always going to be bad games where they get burned or whatever. But when they're on and pitching their best, who's your guy that you want?
I think the eye test definitely favors Scherzer.
Yeah, for sure.
Verlander, It's simply because Kershaw doesn't have that premium velocity.
He has the killer curveball. That's his career.
But he's still dominant. But Scherzer and Verlander just look a little bit more sexier when they're pitching because they just mow guys down.
It's a lot smoother. Too.
And Verlander, I always think of those starts where he was just going the whole game, and he was topping out like 102 in the 9th inning.
Yeah.
Which at the time, like back, a decade ago, was unheard of to see a guy's velocity up there, especially in the 9th inning after pitching a full game.
Yeah, the other 2 guys kind of get forgotten too, just because they've been on some, like you said, really bad teams. Kershaw's been on. I mean, the Dodgers have been a fairly good team for the length of his career. Yeah, there's some down years in there, but they've made the playoffs the majority of years, and they're very, popular. Everyone knows about him, so you hear his name a lot more. So I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying by the eye test. Like everyone knows who he is. You kind of forget about the other 2 guys, and that does go into who's best of a generation is media popularity and.
Well, and Verlander had the 1 year where he missed most of the season with an injury, then also had 1 bad year. Scherzer
durability.
Scherzer started off career-wise. He was a top prospect, but his first 5 years in the major leagues weren't very good with the Diamondbacks, and early on with Detroit. And then he really kind of turned things on late in his Detroit career before he went to the Nationals. So, I mean, he pitched 13 years, but really most of that 62.3 WAR is over 8 years.
Yeah, so that's more. Well, then, do you consider him of the same generation then for that kind of pitching? So technically, if you're looking at the body of work, you're only looking at 8 years for him, and for Kershaw, it's what 16 or 13.
Yeah, Kershaw's 13.
13.
Verlander's 16. Scherzer's
I mean, I guess you have to consider the
13.
whole body of work.
and
That's
Scherzer's
true.
got 3 Cy Youngs, a
Just
World
like so.
Series.
So in terms of
So
Cy
similar
Youngs, it's
now.
3.
Verlander's got 2 and an MVP and a Rookie of the Year.
They're all so equal.
They're all
so
first
equal.
ballot Hall of Famers, one way
Yeah.
or the other.
But I think if I had to rank in terms of just fun, of the generation, probably Verlander actually would be number 1, Kershaw, then Scherz. Just because, like Hayden was saying, when you take all those years, I just think the longer careers plus Verlander.
I mean,
the guy.
to be fair, like when you get into the age at which these pitchers are, going into the MLB for 13 years versus 16 years is a big difference.
Yeah.
That's 3 full more years of pitching.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, they had a couple, injuries here and there. Maybe missed a full season 1 year, 2 years, but that is 3 full more seasons of practice, preparation, pitching. Like that's a lot more wear and tear, especially if someone that age. I think 16 versus 13 is a lot more impressive.
What I think is interesting too is Verlander's got 226 career wins. Scherzer and Kershaw both have 175 and 13. I don't think we'll ever see another 300-game winner in baseball history.
No, we won't.
What is the percentage of wins though for each of
250
those?
might be the new mark, and that might even be stretched.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I mean, with the amount of velocity that they're trying to go for now at these, I mean,
Because
the arm just does not last that
300
long.
used to be like kind of the pinnacle, or if you got 300, you were a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And if you were below that, depending on if you were within 250, yeah, you were close. But if you were around 200,
That's the number.
Well, with the safety nowadays, I mean, these guys probably started their careers at a point where the safety wasn't quite as important. You don't get as many days of rest. So they were in before. They were really pushing it at the beginning of their careers for safety. But now, as obviously health has become the number 1 concern.
No, it's crazy to see how much baseball's changed over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
It's gone 180
Right.
from how pitchers are viewed, how pitchers are used, and it's just a completely different game now than it was in 2010 even.
Yeah. Right.
What else do you want to talk about?
That's-
Do you still want to keep talking baseball, or want to get on to the Packers, Badgers, the Bucks and their political stances?
We'll leave that off the pod.
We're not walking off the pod.
Yeah, we can get into a little NFL and
Sure.
college football.
Sure.
Just to round things out here.
Packers, 1 loss against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay the favorite in the NFC.
Heck no.
You seen that offense?
We had this discussion earlier, and I said yes, and I don't count Antonio Brown in that decision because they haven't had him yet. They still look very good. I mean, Tom Brady is closing in on the front runner for MVP. Most touchdown passes last 4 games at 15. Best interception to touchdown ratio 15-1.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's performing, and these aren't throws that an old washed up quarterback. These aren't dump off passes. They're difficult throws far down the field that a full strength quarterback needs to make.
And they're plus 80 in point differential.
Yeah.
The only one close is Kansas City at plus 75. Otherwise, there's Pittsburgh at 65. There's the Cardinals at 57.
And that's
no one else is really close.
But that's their MO.
Yeah.
The thing is they try to start fast, get teams into that passing situation, set up the pass rush. But if they do get into the close game, I think they do struggle down the stretch. Just because they cannot, their rushing game is very poor. They can't run out the clock. They need to be ahead by a lot.
I do like their running backs. So I think
they're good running backs.
They got Fournette, Jones,
but their offensive line isn't built to block for the run. It's built to block for Brady. And I guess that's kind of the focal point. That's the point of getting Tom Brady right, is to block for him.
I don't like. I just don't like.
Well, who's your favorite then for the NFC?
Yeah.
If you're
Green
gonna
Bay.
If you're gonna go outside the Packers, who's your favorite for the NFC? Because there's some bias.
It's Tampa Bay.
There's a little bit of bias. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bias.
I mean, as much as I hate to say it, Seattle.
No.
That's a good choice.
Seattle's
I
defense
hate
is
it.
terrible though. They can't stop anyone.
Is it though? They haven't.
Yeah,
they're not
bad.
horrible.
They're the worst.
They've allowed
pass-ranked
173 points, which is somewhat.
What are they?
meaningless.
There's 6 games in, so I mean, yeah, that is almost 30 a game.
173.
What are they scoring? What's their point differential level?
Plus 31. They're 203. I mean, they're good, but I don't
the
trust
reason-
that defense.
The reason I would like Seattle is most playoff games are fairly high scoring. There's very rarely a defensive battle these days. The reason I like Seattle is, one, their offense is high powered, so they're going to be able to come back or score points if they get down. But number two is they do finish off games very strong. They're able to come down the line. I mean, look at the Vikings game. Yeah, Russell Wilson, as much as you hate for me to say this, is clutch down the stretch. They make the big plays in the big moments. Some of those catches are very difficult. And they just always find a way to win. It's like the Steelers. They always find a way to win.
Mm-hmm. Well, it'll be interesting, too, to see the Buccaneers because if Antonio Brown lives up to his Steeler days, it's one of the best, if not the best receiver in the game again. I don't know if he'll get to that point, but if he's a solid number 2 guy, and as long as they stay healthy, because they've been battling some injuries with Godwin, Evans, even Gronk has been a little banged up. If they can stay healthy, I mean, Antonio Brown as your number 3 guy, I don't see anyone stopping.
Do you think that's a good signing,
though?
No. Personally,
because he respects Brady. And they have
does he though?
They have no money invested in him. So if he starts causing problems, they can cut him loose.
That's very true. And that's what I think is going to happen. I don't think he finishes the season with them, whether it's because of injury or whatnot. But I personally think he's a detriment to that team because here's why. You get Antonio Brown on the field, you have good receivers, Godwin, Evans, Gronkowski, like you just said. 3 very good receivers. Yeah. Those are starters on any team, really. Bringing in another very good receiver, let's talk about Antonio Brown on his Steelers days. Very good receiver, top-tier receiver. He's going to demand X number of targets per game from Brady, and Brady has never, ever been that guy. I mean, with the exception of Randy Moss, and their relationship worked out really well to I need to throw to this guy X number of games, get him his targets. He's just throwing to whoever is open. And Brown does not usually play well with quarterbacks.
Deep wide receiver.
That's correct. Exactly.
Not what I want.
He knows what he's signing up for, though.
Does he, though? Because he signed up multiple different places and had that problem. Besides Ben Roethlisberger, who, that relationship worked well because he was young and had worked with Roethlisberger for how many years. But now he's coming with Brady for the second time.
The guy is he has rocks in his head. Like, he doesn't even know what he wants.
We'll know within a week or 2 if he's going to make it or not with Tampa once he's on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, the nice thing about it is he does have a hard-headed coach as the head coach, and he does have a quarterback that he knows he cannot push around and bully. Yeah. If he tries to talk Brady about, Brady's not going to take anything from his receivers. He's just going to hold up his hand with the rings on it. Yeah. Which I think it's the best fit for him, but I'm not sure there's a right fit for him.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's, I guess, kind of the way to put it.
For me, as someone who's grown up in Wisconsin, I would have liked to have seen the Packers sign him. I would have taken that risk.
I would have.
That might be a better signing.
I would have a diva quarterback and a diva wide receiver.
But those personalities match up. But in terms of if you're talking about just need, then okay, he could have gone to the Jets or someone else who needs a good receiver. But in terms of fit, I'm talking about the whole package, with the family aspect, everything, working well with teammates, the coach, liking the offense, all of that. I think Tampa Bay is as good a fit as there is. But in terms of need, the Packers, absolutely need a number 2.
And Tampa's paying him less than $5 million, so you got to remember that. I mean,
it's like $1 million.
It's so cheap. I'm not even going to look
max of like 3.2 or something.
Yeah. If he causes any problems, whether that would have been with the Buccaneers because that's where he's at, or who is signed with the Packers, you just cut him loose because you have nothing invested in him. He's worth the risk because he could put that offense from being maybe the best in the NFC, which I think it is, and maybe one of the best in the NFL, to even better than the Chiefs, for instance.
And that's why I think it's a good thing the Packers didn't sign him to is not only the diva aspect,
but going to win.
Well, that's not. No, they have a very Packers. The Packers have a very good chance of winning the Super Bowl this year. But that's besides the point. What you're looking at is the Packers have a very good thing going right now. Yes, they are very shallow at wide receiver talent. You have Valdez Scantling who can just run a go route.
The lizard. The lizard.
He's not even a 2
today for the first time.
He's not a 2. He's like a 3 or a 4 mate. But the Packers don't need to run a 3 wide receiver set because they can just throw a tight end in and put 2 running backs in.
Yep.
Got plenty of. Honestly, both of their running backs are better at catching passes than their number 3 and beyond receivers for the most part. Right. But that's the thing. We don't have to look up how many points per game they're scoring. They have a very good thing going, with the exception of the Tampa Bay game, and they bounced back really well from that. Why would you want to ruin that by bringing in another diva Antonio Brown? You wouldn't. So
I
it's a
would.
smart move to
I
not
would
bring
have
him
picked-
in.
I would have brought him
He
in.
is not
no,
the
I
Packers.
know,
They're not
but I
better
know
than
you're
the-
trying to go big and win it all by having the best possible
Yes.
talent you can, but look at what they're doing.
They're not better than the Buccaneers.
They-
And well,
Uh,
that
not
week
only-
they weren't better than the Buccaneers.
But I think
Rodgers
over-
had an uncharacteristically bad game.
I don't trust their defense so against Tampa Bay's
Do you
offense.
trust Tampa Bay's defense though?
Yes, because they can shut. They've got the 2-minute linebacker.
I guess their pass
with
protection,
David
their pass
and the
defense
other
is
guy,
They
and
just
they can stop the running game. The Packers
their
have no
pass defense.
success.
Well,
running
you
the
do
ball.
it again when the Packers are missing
Aaron Jones.
no, the defensive tackle
Oh.
in the middle. That's a
Kenny
big
Clark.
that's a big
Yeah.
loss in the
It
middle for
is.
run stopping.
Yeah.
And they're missing. I mean, let's be honest. Every game. I mean, they should be used to this, I guess, by now. But every game they're missing at least two secondary players. And I mean, Savage was out last week, and King is always hurt with some calf injury. So, but they should be used to that by now. Their defense has stepped up this year. It's been much
It's a
improved.
bend don't break.
It's
defense.
much improved. It is much improved.
It is.
They've been blowing teams out.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna give up if you're up 35-10. You're probably gonna give up some touchdowns at some point. They're gonna be throwing deep every single. You can't win them all.
Yeah, but
Look at how many points
look
per
at who
game they're
they
giving up.
played. They
Look at their
played
points.
the
Minnesota
Vikings
projected to be a good team at the
They
beginning of the
were.
year.
Yeah,
They
They are a very good team.
bad.
They are a good team. They're just
They're
not playing well.
Defense sucks.
Detroit's better than expected. 3-3.
Detroit.
They're 3-3.
Okay, this
New
is who they
Orleans is
played.
good.
New Orleans.
Minnesota, Detroit, the Saints,
Really
So
good.
it's in three.
Falcons,
The Falcons
Falcons
are better.
become
The
fights.
Falcons are
Tampa.
better than advertised.
and
So
Texans.
you're
I'll give-
five. I
I
think
think
five
they're
of those
quality.
6 teams are good.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Falcons and Buccaneers are good. Texans
Falcons and
are
Buccaneers are
not
good.
Falcons, Saints and
Yeah.
Buccaneers.
Correct.
Thank you.
Detroit 300. They were up 14-0. Detroit's up 14-0 in that game. The Falcons again. They lose every game. And
I'll
allow
believe it when I see the Packers actually advance to the Super Bowl.
And
Because
you can't
come-
just say
come
that. though.
playoff time, they always fall apart. So it's either they're just a
But
really
you
good
can say that
regular
about
season
every team that doesn't win the
They're
Super
either
Bowl.
a really good regular season team or they just simply don't have the talent.
And the
Or
Texans.
they're depth. They don't have depth.
I'll give you that
And
this
that's
year.
the
They
problem.
don't. It's the same scenario they're in every year where they don't have the talent and depth. But this year is felt different.
It does
It
feel
has felt
different.
different.
Last
They're
year-
not
Yeah.
winning games by 6.
Last year
three.
was
They're
a
winning
clear
games by
fraud.
24.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
I agree. I mean,
it's
I
a-
think they're the second best team, but I just think there's
It's-
a margin between the
it's a
Buccaneers
different.
and the Packers.
There is a margin right now, but there's a different feeling because when they used to get up by 10 points with McCarthy, they'll kind of take their foot off the
Yep.
gas,
Yes,
you know,
they would.
and
This is
we got to
a-
play it conservative. We're going to hand it off 3 times, try to burn some clock. There's 12 minutes left
Yep.
before. But now we're up 14. Let's try to get to 28. Let's try to get to 35. You know, it's not handoffs. We're going to continue to pass, set up the run with the pass. You know, it's more aggressive, and that's something I like about it.
They're better than the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Offensively, the Seahawks are definitely better, for sure.
More
Defensively, it's kind of a toss-up. I mean, both
Yes.
teams have been, high-powered offense try to get ahead, and
Mhm.
the defense kind of, try to just get some stops or give up field goals. We'll keep scoring touchdowns for you guys. That's kind of been both teams' MO. And it's worked well, and that's kind of the NFL MO right now for success.
Right.
Quick answer before we move on. Should they and will they re-sign Aaron Jones in the offseason?
Stats just posted. We posted a piece on this. Are running backs the most replaceable position? I believe they are.
Mhm.
And I noticed from the group answers, a lot of them were, well, no, of course not. Jones is a great talent. We haven't had a talent like this since
Yep.
Amon Green. Others have
Mhm.
said, well, I think Williams could fill in and do the job just as well.
I agree.
And I'm in the position of let's not pay him the big money because running back careers are short. I think we have Aaron Jones' peak right now, maybe one more year. So if you pay a big contract, it'll be for probably next year's peak.
Is he out this year or next year?
He's a free agent after this year.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
and Jamal Williams.
Both are.
So I think you could get Williams at a good deal. I'd almost think about re-signing him and putting Dillon
They
into
just
the
they have
Williams.
a rookie.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we've seen it on so many teams. Pittsburgh said goodbye to Le'Veon Bell, and James Conner is just
Oh.
looking just as good.
Le'Veon
So-
Bell was gone for different reasons.
Well,
besides pay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
still, I mean,
There's a lot more going on than
still,
just money.
I
people.
think you can see it anywhere of just running backs being replaceable. So I say it's not worth paying big time. Put that money into a wide receiver or some plays have greater need than running back. I think running back depends more on the line than it does on the running. I mean, it depends on both, but I think running backs are replaceable.
I will agree with you that running backs, 100%. I think running backs are replaceable. They should spend the money somewhere else. But here's the deal with how I think. I think it's not an answerable question at this time. I think they need to wait and see how Jones's season goes. If he kind of, he had the one really good game against Detroit. If he continues to have really good games at the end of the year, I think, he's going to request too much money. They're going to let him go. That would be the right choice. He can't afford to pay it. But if he has kind of some average games, just because Rodgers is so good in the passing game, you do get to kind of lose the running back underneath Rodgers, especially if he's not a pass catcher, which Jones is.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't see the numbers that he's been seeing, then the Packers can make the case, we're not seeing the superb numbers out of you. And he might, they might be able to sign him at a smaller contract, similar to Williams. For sure, you need to get Williams, but the problem with that is you let Jones go, get Williams and Dillon. That's the same running back. They're two of the exact same body build size type of running. You don't need that. You don't need two of those.
Yeah,
you need someone that can come out of the backfield and pass catch and be more agile and quicker. Not just two power runners.
I'm not opposed to re-signing him. I usually tend to agree with Colin with running backs are replaceable, but the problem is Aaron Jones is the second best receiver on this team.
That's
And if you lose, Jamal Williams is good too, so it's all going to come down to the number that he wants. If it's reasonable, give it to him. I would even bring back Jamal Williams and have Dillon as your number 3 still, and because you're using Williams and Jones especially in the passing game. So Dillon's going to get his opportunities.
I suppose if they win the Super Bowl, why not sign Jones and sign everyone else? Try to get the exact same team. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But
they need to draft a receiver next year. I don't know why
they kind of dropped the ball this year.
They could have had him a couple of years ago.
They could have had Higgins this year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But hey, at least Mike McCarthy got a great receiver in the first round this year.
He did?
The thing is what is Jones the second best receiver on the Packers because of Rodgers, or is it because of his route running ability? I don't know if I can answer that, but
I'm not.
That's kind of a question. Because Williams has been a very good receiver out of the backfield as well, and he's a bigger guy. So I don't know if it's just because. Yeah, I don't know if it. I don't know
because Rodgers. Well, Jones's running ability opens up the passing game. Rodgers' throwing game opens up the running game.
I'm not worried about the rushing attack. I'm talking about the pass.
But then with Rodgers, Aaron Jones is a crisp route runner.
But is he?
And he looks to Jones after Devontae Adams.
I guess the question I'm trying to pose is Jones more open or less covered because the defenses are more worried about the receivers and they'll let the check down happen every time because they know Rodgers is such a good passer. Is it because of the deep threat that they're worried about and Adams that they're worried about that Jones is so open and that's why his stats look good? Or is he just that good of a route where he's burning people one-on-one? I don't think he's burning people one-on-one.
Well, the problem is that most defenses are putting a linebacker on a running back regardless of who it is.
Yeah.
So he's always going to have to step up on that linebacker, most likely, unless it's one of the best linebackers in the game.
But here's to Colin's point. Can't you just draft someone that's the same body type and speed and whatnot as Jones?
Is pretty much that.
Yeah, exactly. So why wouldn't you just let him go then? If that's
exactly.
Well, you better use that money then to go get a receiver.
Well, they won't, but they might need to go use that money to get a quarterback too. There's a lot of different.
Jordan Love is the answer. We're
not going to discuss that today. We aren't going to discuss that today.
So moving on, we only have a few minutes left, I think, of the show. So
we want to talk McCarthy. Let's talk McCarthy. The Badgers are a mess of a situation right now.
Canceling the season.
They're not playing this week against the Huskers. Graham Merritt's their Heisman hopeful, their best player in a decade at least. Maybe program history.
Yeah, really.
Is out with COVID. Paul Chryst is out with COVID. Everyone's out with COVID.
Season's out with COVID.
Let's talk about Mike McCarthy. I know Hayden wanted to talk about that.
Yeah.
The Cowboys are still not in last place. They're 2-5. Defense is historically bad.
Half game back though.
In that division.
I think they should trade for Matt Ryan.
Now I was going a different route with that. I was thinking they should trade for Fitzpatrick.
Okay, he's cheaper. I would, yes.
The two is starting now. The Dolphins have decided to ruin their season when they're in the division race for once.
I agree.
Fitzpatrick is, heartbroken about it. He's not mad about it. He's doing it. Got the right mentality. He makes all the downfield throws. They've got the weapon. But that's besides the questions I wanted to ask. The first question was, so Dalton gets, laid out, obviously, last week, gets a concussion. Nobody comes to his aid. No one steps in Bostic's face. Oh, why is that funny?
I don't know.
So
Andy Dalton.
Yeah, really. But nobody comes to his aid. No coaches, nobody. Whose fault is that now? That no one comes to his aid? Because the proposition I'm making is it a coach's fault?
No.
Is that the player's fault on the field? Who and why?
Because
that's part one.
It's a player's fault because the coach cannot teach camaraderie and just common sense.
Can he though? Can he teach
I
camaraderie?
mean, you can say, yes, go help your quarterback, but if the players aren't going to listen to him.
I mean, this isn't kindergarten.
Yeah.
I get that, but I guess
okay.
I'm
So,
kind of devil's advocate
if Colin
here.
would get laid out by a car in this Normandy parking lot, and I said, Hayden, go help Colin get off after he got run over, and you decide not to, but that's your decision.
That's not the point. That's not the point I'm trying to get after. I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here. I think this is the coach's fault, not in the moment. Besides the point, the question was about
first round.
The question was about Dalton, though. Wouldn't it be, because there's no. But your default microphone changed the capture input terminal. What? Your microphone is not working properly.
Oh no. It's already broken.
What the heck?
Check my mic.
That beer was good.
See, the point I'm trying to get to is it not
I
McCarthy's
should have
fault?
recorded it with the.
Is it not McCarthy's fault for not instilling this level of culture and standing up for each other? Because if you would have a Mike Tomlin, but here's the thing: if you would have a Mike Tomlin team, the Steelers, you can almost bet that half the teams from the sidelines will be on there after the guy, right? Because that's the kind of culture that Tomlin instills from day one.
I better think a better comparison is LaFleur because he's a new coach.
Okay, even better. Rodgers gets laid out. You see it in that's their starting quarterback. But if the backup quarterback got laid out, I still think that the linemen and their receivers would be in that guy's face pissed off because that is the culture that has been instilled into the program. McCarthy just doesn't have to seem a grasp on that. And
I think
there's not that level of family.
It comes down to
I think it's not the level of family
I think it goes back to my analogy of Colin being drilled.
It is a certain level of the players because it's that moment they need to make a decision. But at the same time, they've pretty much made the choice. That's not our quarterback. We don't care about him. And that's McCarthy's job to tell them to kind of get them back in line.
Well, Andy Dalton sucks. So, I mean.
It doesn't matter, though. I mean, if Darnold got laid out, I feel like there would still be some Jets players that maybe the more feisty ones like Bell, who's no longer there, obviously, but they would be in that guy's face just because, it's family.
Yeah.
We just don't have that culture with the Cowboys. Now, this leads to my second question, is should Mike McCarthy be fired now or before the end of this season? Assuming, let's be honest, Dak's not coming back, so it's going to be the same as every single game.
He'll get one more season only because he's bailed out by Prescott's injury. I think and you didn't have. You need some time to implement a system with your coaches and everything. I think it's unfair to fire a coach after 1 year, regardless of the team talent.
I think it's unfair to fire a coach after 1 year because of COVID.
Right.
Ruining the off season. Now, if it was a normal off season, I still wouldn't fire McCarthy, but if it was a first-year coach, I might give him the boot. But McCarthy's a proven winner, and
sort of.
He needs to start by firing Mike Nolan as D coordinator because that experiment has not worked. And he's going to get the benefit of the doubt with the injuries.
Yeah.
Dak injured. Most, if not all, of the offensive line has been injured. Ezekiel Elliott is a prima donna who's not earning his money. The guy's been fumbling the ball nonstop. It's at some point it comes down to the players and having accountability. And the players are not having accountability for their performance. They're going through the motions, especially the defensive side of the ball.
But isn't that the head coach's fault right there for allowing
You can
that?
only motivate a guy and tell him
So
to do
much,
something
yeah.
so much. It has,
Yeah, but that's their job as
Eventually-
head coach.
no, it comes down to the players.
It does.
Players make the coach. The coach doesn't make the players.
He certainly helps, though. I mean, I still
But
think
he can
that
only
comes down
do
to
so
the
much.
coach.
Can.
He can, but he's obviously not doing anything.
Do I need to repeat my analogy
No.
about Colin and the partner?
No, but I do
Look, you
understand
can't
you, but that's
control-
that's in the moment.
This isn't
If you
Madden.
had
He's
instilled
just
this,
not
if
like-
this brotherhood or whatever had been instilled from day one, this like level of deeper care, for each other, I feel like the situation's different. But you're talking about in the moment, yes. In
But
the
you
moment,
can say as much as you want about you gotta love your teammates, help your quarterback, this, that, and the other.
yeah, you're playing
But
for
the
that guy.
players, they're the ones who make the decision
Isn't
if
that-
they want to follow the
but
coach or not.
At the end of the day, isn't that the head coach's job? And if they're not following the coach, then why is he the head coach, right?
Because he is one of the best coaches in the league.
Is he?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
he was
I
the
think
best
mediocre.
available.
I think he's mediocre at best.
No, he was the best available coach for the Cowboys.
I think no. There's like 200
His
something
offense-
colleges
His offense
that
was
have
looking
coaches
good
available.
with Dak healthy.
Yeah, but
It's the defense that was screwing them early on.
was his offense looking good?
Yes,
because
I
they
think
can't
so.
because they got oil on their hands every time. They can't hold on to the football.
And
That's
that's not
coaching.
his fault. That's
Oh,
Yeah.
you're telling
You gotta
me
tell him how to
it's
hold
not
it.
my fault. Oh, make sure you catch the ball. Use your hands.
Yeah.
Don't drop it.
The reporters aren't asking him in the post.
yeah, but you have
So why
coaching
did you
staff
hang on
that
to the
works
ball?
on that with your players.
But it
one-on-one.
comes down to execution.
If you're-
Yeah.
which is again by the coach. It's not the player's job is to execute, but the coach's
Yes,
job is
it
to
looks-
instill the properties
Yeah, it
in the
looks
player
bad on-
to
It
successfully
looks
execute.
bad on the coach, but it comes down to the players. If your
But at
boss-
this point,
if your
it's
boss tells you to do your job and you are sitting fishing all day and not doing your job, that's your fault.
Sounds familiar.
That's your
No.
fault. And yes, it looks
Yes,
bad
it
on
is.
the manager because
yes, I
they
get that.
hired you. They
I get that.
trained you that.
I get that part, but Zeke fumbling one time, whatever, it's on him. 2 times, okay, it's still on him. He's having a rough game, but it's just constant. At this point, it's just repeating itself over and over again. Like Zeke he's got oil on his hands or something. It's the same thing
It's
every week.
Madonna.
Yes.
It's like Le'Veon Bell.
It's the same thing
And it's
every
exactly
week.
why you don't overpay for a running back. Like
Right.
they did. You give him at market value or you let him go. You tell
I
him
just-
go have fun.
My
playing with the
hot take
Jets.
is that McCarthy is not going to last till next season.
I thought they might win the Super
Jerry
Bowl.
Jones is one of those very stern guys. He does not take mediocrity well.
Well,
He does
then
not
Jerry
take losing
Jones should
records
be
well.
coaching the
Period.
team
Right.
too.
Right.
The
Well, he-
GM
Pretty
scout,
much.
Well, there is no
He may as
GM
well.
more present in their team than Jerry Jones. So I mean, but I just don't think he's taking mediocrity well. And they're in this division race. We're forgetting that. We act like they're the worst team in the NFL. They're a half game back in their division.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they are very much in
They
this
are.
division, and I can guarantee you that quite a few games coming up for them are going to be against teams with losing records.
Yeah.
Considering the rest of the division
What
has losing
screwed
records.
them was losing to Washington. That
Well,
shouldn't
they
happen
did more.
now.
They more than just lost.
They got blown out.
They did, yeah.
And now this is a topic for a different day, but I
we
want
are-
to talk about Carson Wentz being the most overrated quarterback in the league.
Oh, disgusting.
But that's a
That's
different
another
topic for a different day. So
Yeah, I think that wraps it up though for today. And thank you, Hayden, again for
Yeah.
guests. I'm sure we'll have you on
Thanks
again.
for having me.
Yeah, and that'll do it for this edition of the 3 and 2 What's He Gonna Do podcast. Again, you can listen to us on Spotify, SoundCloud, not Google Play, no more Apple Podcasts. That's been recent to not make it. But yeah, anyway, get us wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Now you can keep watching us and send us your questions, emails, anything you want us to discuss on the show. And we will talk with you probably later this week or early next week.
thank you.